Good evening, good evening. I hope you're doing well. And this video is gonna be story time, but it will contain some of the technical stuff. But मैं explain करता हूँ बाद में. Today is 30th May 2026 and the day is Saturday. And the time right now is 7:27. So my last exam was on 28th of May, and on the night of 27th, my web dev professor messaged me and then called me, and she said, "But I need a help." I said, "Ma'am, kya?" She said, can you make a website?" Like, I am oversimplifying here. So she asked me, "Beta, can you make a website?" I'm like, "Kis type ki website ye wo?" Then she told me that it needs to be get done in one single day. And then I said कि मैम कल एग्ज़ाम है, परसों मेरे को घर के लिए निकलना है, तो it's not really possible. Then she called me sometime later and then told me कि you have till 31st, that is tomorrow. Then I said कि मैम then it's possible. And the reason I agreed were, first, she called me like on her own. And when someone elder and a teacher is calling you for a help, then you should just kind of, help them. Like, there should be no attitude, no ego wala thing here, because it's like a basic human thing to, like, help each other, right? So yeah, so I said yes, because why not? First reason is that she was a teacher and she called me herself. She kept her ego aside, so that's a really good thing. Second, I just love doing things. Like, she's asking me to do something that I really love, so there's no downside, like, right? So like कुछ इसमें वो नहीं है. तो उन्होंने मुझे क्या बोला बनाने के लिए? वाईफाई नहीं चल रहा वो. वाईफाई हो गया भाई. वाईफाई ऑफ ऑन लिस्ट. कनेक्ट हो गया. खुल गया सिम. तो मैम सेट कि नेक्स्ट एग्ज़ाम के बाद आना, मैं तुमको वो दूंगी डॉक्यूमेंट, लाइक इन्फॉर्मेशन. तो पहला ये QR कोड मेरे को समझ नहीं आया कि करना क्या है. आज मेरे को फाइनली समझ आया कि मैम का मतलब क्या था QR भेजने के पीछे. सेकंड वाज दिस, लाइक कुछ समझ नहीं आया. थर्ड एंड फोर्थ वर द एक्चुअली यूजफुल वन. एंड इवन शी सेंड मी दिस थिंग, वेपन QR record. And this is a MST file, right? MST file is like a self-contained HTML and CSS file through which you can actually, सब कुछ एक में contained होता है. You can actually visualize, like दिख जाता है वो. So if I try opening one, I open the files, go to downloads, go to others, and open this MST file here, which is not opening for some reason. Yeah. So it opens like this. This is like pure HTML rendering. I can just go and select certain things and it will just load. So this thing helped me out a lot, and these two things helped me out a lot because I was working with absolutely nothing. इसके बाद इसको देखने के बाद I got to know कि okay, I have to make like a dashboard for army or stuff like that. तो बस इसको recreate करने का try किया है. And if I open Excalibur, so my tech stack was framework के लिए मैंने यूज़ किया Next.js, लैंग्वेज के लिए यूज़ किया TypeScript, डेटाबेस के लिए यूज़ किया Convex, एंड ऑथेंटिकेशन के लिए यूज़ किया Clerk, एंड होस्टिंग किया Vercel. एंड डोमेन अभी फ्री वाला यूज़ किया बिकॉज आई हैव नो कन्फर्मेशन वेदर क्लाइंट को पसंद आया कि नहीं आया. बिकॉज जो प्रोफेसर थे, शी ओनली प्लेड लाइक अ मिडिल मैन रोल, लाइक जिनके लिए बना रहा हूँ वो कोई और है. एंड मैंने नोटिस किया, मैंने पास में जब भी मेरा लास्ट जॉब था, लाइक लास्ट मेरा वो था कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बोल जो भी था, आई एम एक्चुअली नॉट द काइंड ऑफ पर्सन हु लाइक्स टॉकिंग टू द क्लाइंट because somewhere I feel like I'm a more technical person and I'm not good at explaining things when it comes to people who are not aware about it. So my language seems to get very difficult for them to follow. So I believe I'm not the right person for HR, for communications, for relations. So I prefer talking to a middleman who like actually understands my technical language and then translates it over into a much simpler one that the client can understand. Right. Next.js का नाम I believe आपने सुना होगा, but if not, let me show you the website for Next.js, the React framework for the web. So it's a fork of React.js. React.js was made in I believe 2016 by Facebook, and it is basically the language that is used all framework that is used all over the web. Like everyone uses React for websites or one of its derivatives. There are other frameworks as well like Solid.js, TanStack, Vue.js, Angular, Svelte. There are a lot of different frameworks, but React, Next.js are like the most famous one. And why do I use Next.js? The reasons are right here. First, client and server rendering. Now this thing is pretty cool. From my understanding, what it really means is traditionally what used to happen was your HTML, your CSS, your JavaScript, those files were sent to the client and then they were compiled, they were stitched together, and then they used to render. So you had to like send individual files to the client over the network, and then they used to be compiled in the browser. Every linking step, like जो भी compilation step होती, everything used to happen in the browser, and then it used to render. Now the benefit of server rendering is that you can compile everything on the server and just send a compiled version on the browser to the client. That means the only workload that the client has now is to render it. You don't have to compile it, you don't have to link anything together. The only job the client has now is to render it. So it is very good for performance, especially on systems that are old, because you don't have to compile, it takes less CPU, it takes less resources. So it's a really good feature. Then server actions. These are also really cool things, and I personally love server actions. The reason why I love them is it helps me think in two different ways. I can think about things that are safe to put on client, and then things that are not safe to put on clients. The problem is, remember when I told you about the recent exam leak in my college, I was able to get the question paper for the automated exam beforehand, right? That happened because the entire website was running on the front end, like every logic, the authentication logic, the routing logic, every logic was done on the front end, on the client side. And using network tabs, if I open the network tab, if I go to sources, the entire code is visible to the client. So I was able to see literally everything that was happening on that website, and therefore I was able to get access to the exam because I knew how, like, they literally told me what API endpoint I need to hit, how am I supposed to create a particular API, like craft a particular API request. I mean, it required a bit more than that, but I was able to figure it out only because they gave me the foundations. So server action is very crucial when it comes to security. You need to keep your database calls, you need to keep the authentication logic on your server no matter what, because client stuff can be easily manipulated. And if I refresh the site, it also shows right now it's not loading, I don't know. Okay, let me do all. Every network request is showed here, like every single one. And similarly on that website, on the college website, the API requests for the exam are also getting displayed. So yeah, you need to keep your routing, your crucial logic separate. Then comes dynamic HTML streaming. Now the benefit of using this is, for example, let's say you have a home page and you have 10 different sections. The first good thing about Next.js or React is you can delegate them into different components that are like a parent-child relation. So you will define the components as children and you just import them into the parent. The benefit of this is, if one of the components break, then it will not break every other components, and it will be very easier to debug because you know what thing broke, and you will be only focusing on that particular file because it lives in its own components which is present in its own file. So it becomes really easy to debug the files. And if you have 10 different components and let's say they are calling database, some a particular component is calling a API or something like that, then it takes time because they are asynchronous operations which take some time, and you are awaiting, or you are like more like waiting for the response to come. Then you can show a loading state, right? So the benefit of dynamic HTML streaming is that you can show different UIs based on the current state of that particular component. For example, if a component is loading, then you can keep showing loading until unless that thing actually processes, and then at last you can show the final UI. So that's really good for user accessibility, UI UX. Like it keeps the user in the loop. You do not leave the user in the dark. Like they don't know what's happening. If they see loading or they see a progress path, they are actually you are conveying the message to the user that yes, something is happening and it might take some time. So they actually wait rather than closing the site. So it's a really good thing. Last one is route handlers. The API handling is built into Next.js, so it makes doing stuff really easy, but I do not seem to use it that much because I'm a big fan of server actions. I try to do literally everything into server actions, right? So ये हो गया. Now let's move to the language TypeScript. TypeScript is basically a superscript of JavaScript. एक एग्जांपल दिखाता हूँ. वेट, cd temp ls npm test.js function test log a. Okay, and if I call the function a, I can pass either 4 or I can pass. So here I made a file named test.js, right? Let me save the file. So I made a file named test.js. Now I have a function which is named test, which takes a parameter a, and then I am simply logging the variable a, and here I am calling the function, right? Function calling. So I am able to pass both numbers and strings, and there is no particular restrictions on the kind of or the type of data that I can pass. Now if I try to do the same thing in TypeScript, let me copy everything. Now it will show an error. Duplicate function implementation parameter a implicitly has any type. What it means is whenever I am accepting something, or if I am like taking a parameter, I need to define the types that I am actually like I have to define a types for the parameters that a function is taking. So if I remain to testing, now this thing will give an error again because I have made it so that the a can only be a number, right? But this thing is a string. FEF is a string, so it's showing an error. The main difference between JavaScript and TypeScript is that JavaScript has no types. You can pass literally any variable to any function. There is no strict checking. But in TypeScript, you have to define the types and you need to follow them. It's showing an error. But I guess you can also just do this and this, and it will work because this is an AND operator or operator, that it means a can either be a number or a string. So it's working right now. So if I run them, when test.js, test.ts, both of them will work. So yeah, this is the main difference. Like there are a lot of different features as well, but right now the main difference is this, like TypeScript had types and JavaScript has no types. So it's not safe because you can literally pass any function. For example, let's say you made a function to do something with numbers and you are accidentally passing a string, then it will not show you any error. It will just accept that value. and let's say you have like 1,000 line code, then it will be nightmare to debug that something like what's going on. You will not ever get to know. So that's why many people use TypeScript, and I do too. So yeah, database is convex. Let me open the website. The main reason I used convex is because it's reactive, and by reactive I mean if I make a change anywhere in the database, it will instantly show on every client. I will show you a demo right now for this. Okay, so I'm opening right now the website that I made for them. ये मेरे को बाद में show करना था, but since the demo requires it, I will show you. Okay, let me get my phone. ये connect किया. Alright. Let me open up. CSPY. वीडियो चल रही है ना? ओके मेरा फ़ोन आ गया. लेट मी मूव इट टू वर्क स्पेस 2 पे गया ना. सी तो मैं फ़ोन पे अभी खोलूँगा क्रोम. मैं यहाँ से आईडी चेंज कर लूँगा बिकॉज आई नीड टू शो यू व्हाट आई रियली मीन बाय दैट रिएक्टिव थिंग. Restricted area. Sign in. Continue with Google. I will log in with, let's see, this one. At the same time I open this. Now ध्यान देना, यहाँ पे there are only 3 entries. सुमित कुमार, दीपिका चतुर जो प्रोफेसर हैं, and रोहित कुमार जिनके लिए I guess ये बन रही है वेबसाइट. I am not really sure but yeah. मैं यहाँ पे करूँगा ये, and यहाँ नोटिस करना एक और एंट्री आने वाली है. As you can see यहाँ पे एक और एंट्री आ गया, राइट. बट इट विल शो रिस्ट्रिक्टेड एरिया बिकॉज मेरे को एक्सेस नहीं है. एंड टू गिव एक्सेस ऑल आई नीड टू डू इज activate the user, right, promote, and it opens automatically, and I am controlling on the laptop, like I am just changing some buttons and it's updating on the phone. There is no custom logic, everything is handled by convex. So and if I had to implement this from scratch, it would take fucking ages, and it's really complex to maintain states across all the users. And just by the click here, it's getting updated in the database and it's getting propagated to the mobile light जहाँ मैं use कर रहा हूँ. If I click demote, it will just, it's so fucking cool, and that's why I use convex. And the second reason why I use convex is the database is entirely managed using simple, okay ये उसका file नहीं है, my bad. How do I open a recent project? I forgot. File, open, control alt, okay, yeah, this one, yeah. So the entire database is written using just code, TypeScript code. So I don't have to learn any secondary language, like I don't need to learn SQL, I don't need to learn SQLite, I don't need to learn PostgreSQL, I don't have to learn anything like that. I can just use my coding knowledge to create a database and manage it. These are all the different tables, and these are all the different functions to interact with the database. So it's just so simple. Mutations are basically when you want to make some changes. Queries when you're trying to get some data from database. And this is the actual schema. So yeah, pretty cool stuff, and that's why I've used convex. So that's for my database. Phone kiya band. Now let's move to auth. Clerk, the reason I use clerk is like it's just so easy. Like I just need to make a new project, set some API keys, and it will handle literally everything from OAuth to user management to user dashboard to user accounts. Like it just is so simple to use, and authentication is really complex to set up on your own, and these guys are just doing it for you, and that too for free. I see there's no reason to not use them. It just makes your life so easy. So yeah. I guess पापा आए हैं तो उनको तो पापा आ गए हैं एंड उस रूम में आने वाले होंगे, तो मैं पूरी वीडियो नहीं बना पाऊँगा, सेकंड पार्ट आएगा बाद में, बट अभी ख़त्म करता हूँ. हाँ, तो क्लर्क मेक्स इट रियली ईजी फॉर यू टू मैनेज एवरीथिंग. It has webhooks, it has JWT templates, it has everything, and the most important reason, it integrates very smoothly with Clerk. So that's it for part 1. Next part, the preview and everything will come in the next video.